999ers risk their lives every day keeping us safe.
You're putting yourself out there to help other people at their most precious time of need.
But all too often, they're abused and attacked.
Their house is on fire and they're attacking us.
I was standing up with her hands around my throat.
No. These personal attacks on police, paramedics and firefighters are at an all-time high.
He's telling me, I'm going to kill your wife and I'm going to kill your family and I'm going to kill you.
Leaving them traumatised and unable to work.
How do you come to terms with knowing that you can't go and do the job that you love?
But while the violent criminals responsible are hunted down and brought to justice, our protectors fight to get well and back on the job.
We kept people safe, we put away the bad guys.
I'm not going to let some man ruin it for me. This is my future, this is what I enjoy doing.
Ready to face the next critical incident. Coming up, a report of a burglary ends with a police officer in a fight for his life.
He was using all of his strength with both hands and I was using all my strength to try and keep the knife away from me.
I called out for Daniel, but it was complete silence.
A dog handler is seriously injured as he and his four-legged colleague chased down a suspected thief.
I can feel my fleece is starting to get wet, soaking the blood up like a sponge.
And Kent Police get to grips with taser training.
The taser's an additional piece of equipment for us. Ultimately, yes, it will make us feel safer.
I've seen everything the job has to offer in terms of what crimes are committed. It's everything from simple thefts, harassment, right up to the more serious crimes of murder.
It was PC Daniel Stride's experience growing up that prompted a yearning for change in the society around him.
I grew up on a very socially deprived council estate in Ashford, and where there's deprivation, there's crime, and the fear of crime. And whilst you get used to it growing up, and you're living amongst it, it's not something that I enjoyed, and I wouldn't want anyone else to really go through. So I wanted to change that, try and help people where I could. And that's really the reason I became a police officer.
Little did Daniel know, someone from his childhood would come back to haunt him one evening.
No. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Daniel and PC Chris Machoek have been crewed together many times and have a strong bond.
We've worked together for a couple of years. He's a tremendous guy, really hard-working police constable. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, always.
He truly understands the job. He truly does his best, for the victims that are out there that we deal with. He's one of the best in the force, really.
I would call Daniel a model officer when it comes to policing. Someone that I have learned a lot through his work, observing him, through his attitude to work, and how he always is prepared for everything. Outside of the job, he's one of the person I would trust with my personal issues. We're good buddies.
On Friday, June the 1st, 2018, Daniel and Chris started their shift at 9 p.m.
So we had just finished our briefing in the police station when we got the call to deploy to a burglary. And burglaries are quite a nasty crime and it affects people in many ways. So we like to try and catch them in the act because it's much better if we got the evidence there from ourselves of the people that are committing these crimes. When we got there, we knocked on the door. We didn't get any response at first, but my colleague Chris went to the left of the house.
I went around the building to see whether there was anyone there, but the gate was quite secure. Knocked on the gate and got a response from inside of the house saying that he was the person who called the police. I asked him to come down and open the gate.
When he comes to let them in, Daniel instantly recognises the troubled caller.
It was somebody that lived on the same street as me growing up when I was a kid for about 17 years on the same street. So I knew this person already.
We looked around. Obviously, the first thing is look for danger, just not to be surprised with anything. We couldn't find absolutely anything. We had a chat with him, found out why he called us. He said that there were noises and he could hear people in the garden, which we've checked again. I've checked the neighbouring property. There was absolutely no sign of anyone there.
But we treated him like a true victim and, you know, as if there was a real burglary there and see if there was any evidence of that, which we couldn't find.
We started to think that perhaps there is some other issue that we're dealing with.
It started to look like it was more of a mental health episode, that he may be seeing or hearing people in his garden.
He was frantically looking outside in the garden and in the house. I offered to come and help him with search of the house to make sure he was safe, but he refused. He didn't seem to be quite with me at the time.
So we talked to him, we discussed things and found out that he did suffer from psychosis, which is a mental health condition. He said he was hearing voices and he confirmed that he had taken about 1 gram of cocaine, which is quite a substantial amount. His condition was exacerbated by the drugs, really, so he was very, very paranoid. He was very wide-eyed, very erratic in nature, and kept walking about, very fast-paced, in and out of, you know, the communal corridors, into his bedroom, outside. So it was a bit of a concern for us.
We thought that the best thing would be to call mental health assistance. The phone got disconnected through the lack of signal. So I told Daniel I will go outside of the house to get better signal and to call them again. I thought there's something not quite right in here. Not necessarily striking me as dangerous to anyone, but just something not right. So I went out to call mental health again, and I was told that this male was not under mental health services, but having considered his reaction to possibly taking drugs, and it was causing him to be in quite distressed situation, I decided to call an ambulance.
While Chris is contacting the ambulance service, the resident leads Daniel upstairs.
His bedroom was on the top floor of the building. It was like a townhouse. It was a multi-occupancy, so he really only had his room with communal rooms as well. His room was quite small, very similar to a police cell, really. He was totally calm. He gave me no concern at that point. I tried communicating with him because he tried to break some of his property, and I thought, well, he's going to regret that. But he didn't really kind of engage back. And the real moment of concern was when he took a TV off of his bedside units and put it on his bed and took out a knife from his bedside drawer and tried stabbing the TV with it, as if he was trying to pry it open to stop whatever he was hallucinating. I was very concerned at that point, and it was a big problem because of the knife aspect. I didn't want him to harm himself, I didn't want him to harm me, but because he hadn't shown me any signs of aggression at that point, it would have been wrong of me to steam in and try and take that knife from him. And I had other considerations. The door opened inwards, so I didn't want to turn my back to somebody with a knife because it was quite a small space. So I decided to try and maintain as much control as I could by approaching him. I asked him to give me the knife.
Let's take the knife off you. Let's take the knife off of you.
Get off. And with both hands, he just tried to drive the knife into me.
No, 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 no. 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 No.
Now, I managed to overcome him on the first occasion. That's when I was able to get in an emergency call to raise awareness to my other colleagues that there was a male with a knife.
No. No.
When I was on the phone to the emergency ambulance services, I could sense my radio buzzer going, which normally comes only through someone pressing the emergency button, and I could hear the address and the call out for male with knife. So I immediately thought, oh, it must be Daniel. Went back into the house, but because it was a two-story house with multiple occupants, didn't have a clue where they would be in the house. So I called out for Daniel, but I had absolutely no reply. It was complete silence.
Later, it's a race against time as Daniel is in the fight of his life.
No. No.
Felt the pressure of the knife going into my chest.
No.
Probably not going to see my family again. Am I going to die?
No.
With a worrying increase in weapon crime and attacks across the country, the public aren't the only ones at risk from criminals.
The assaults grew tremendously against my officers. So last year, just under 1,200 assaults.
In Kent, Chief Constable Alan Pusely takes his officers' safety extremely seriously.
My officer's been spat at, which I think is appalling. Being kicked, being punched, and being assaulted in that manner. So low-level physical assault and physical injuries, but mentally quite traumatic. All the way up to officers who are currently sick with serious injuries. One officer was hit by a car and had a really serious broken leg. I decided enough was enough.
And there's one word which can stop an offender in their tracks before even being charged.
All of my officers on the front line who are facing the potential of violent criminal or behaviour will be afforded the opportunity to carry a taser. Over 90% said yes, and the vast majority of the 90% said because they would feel safer to do their job.
At this centre, police officers are taking part in a 3-day taser training course. Of course, these role plays are conducted without actual taser cartridges.
Taser! Stand you go. Okay, move the axe away, okay? Move the axe away. Move it away. No. Right, re-energise. Move it away, okay?
A taser is a conductive energy device. I've never used a taser in my life. I've never been in a scenario where one has been used. They can place up to 50,000 volts into a person, up to 25 foot, which should incapacitate them and make the body go rigid, which means we are allowed to then go in, arrest them if required, detain them, whatever required from the job.
Drop the back, take taser!
A bit quicker on that second shot, because I think officers have to do a 3-day initial course to start with on taser. Day 1 is how to use the taser, the National Decision Model, justification and usage. Then we do a second day, which is scenario-based training for them, and then the third day is where they have to do classifications in order to show that they are capable of using the taser. Instead of their pulver and baton and handcuffs, it's another option for them to use depending on the threat.
You're dealing with situations in which the taser is going to be needed and necessary, and the types of threats that they face and how to use the taser, and then we get practical with the taser and using the taser, teaching the officers how to use it, how to stand, how to manoeuvre distances with the new piece of kit, how it works best for them. Just bring that in a little bit there. So you were sort of punched out a little bit, so just bring it in. Everyone has seen the types of threats that they're facing, the weapons, the aggression,
the violence that they're facing. So I think having that piece of kit on them, that is a fantastic tool that the officers can use to keep themselves safe, the public safe, and the subject safe as well, potentially, depending on the type of threat that they're faced by, with a minimal use of force sometimes as well. Purely the threat, the presence of the taser seems to work for the most part of most situations.
Good pro placement there, you've got above and below the belt line.
When you get a closer look at the barbs that attach to the subject, it gives a whole new meaning to a two-pronged attack.
Pull that out. Don't twist it. Don't twist it because that will really hurt. Obviously, it's got the two hooks on it. You need to have a look and check that the whole of the thing has come out, because if it hasn't, you're going to have to tell the ambulance staff.
These people think nothing, in my view. They carry knives, they're very violent, and they would think nothing at all of assaulting an officer to get away or indeed carry out their criminal act. I ask my officers to deal with them. I ask my officers to stop them, to search them, to confront them and keep the public safe. That's why I introduced Taser.
And every day we go out, we don't know what to expect. You know, we can't assume what we're going to walk into. So knowing that we've got as much safety on our side and to the public as possible is to me, I think it's very beneficial.
The training's gone really well. I go out on the streets, I'm solely single crewed. So dealing with someone that shows a high level of threat or risk, it gives us another option to be able to safely detain that person or deal with that person. Hopefully without needing to raise the risk or raise the sort of the threat to them or ourselves. It's just an optional piece of equipment that we have in our toolbox.
Still to come, an officer caught in a serious struggle.
I'd rather much lose a finger than my life, so I took hold of the blade with as much strength as I could.
He's grateful for the support of his partner.
I'd like to thank him from the bottom of my soul and how much it meant him being there.
As I slipped, my fleece caught on the spike, and then one of these spikes went up into my arm.
And a dog handler impaled on a fence couldn't ask for a better teammate.
There's no doubt that some of the situations that we've been over the years, if I hadn't had Gil as a partner, I've no doubt that I would have probably come to serious injury.
In 2018 to 2019, recorded gun crime in the West Midlands reached an 8-year high. This is the moment a gunman fired at a Birmingham pub after being turned away for being drunk. The bullet went through a bedroom window, but luckily no one was hurt. Armed officers from West Midlands Police made their way quickly to the scene. They spot a car being driven erratically.
Whoa. Stay there! Their vehicle making off, failing to stop. Advanced driver.
The car matches the gunman's, and the officers pursue the driver at up to 80 miles per hour for nearly 3 miles.
Thank you. He's all over the road. He is a drink driver.
The offender finally crashes into a street sign.
Go, mate. Oh, police! Hands in the air! Hands in the air! Hands in the air!
And the armed officers pull him from the car and find the gun.
Down on the floor!
The offender was convicted of firearms and ammunition offences, as well as dangerous driving. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison and banned from driving for 6 years. In Ashford, PC's Daniel Stride and Chris Machoek have been called to a reported burglary, which turned out to be a false alarm. But Daniel knows the caller.
It was somebody that lived on the same street as me growing up. Found out that he did suffer from psychosis, and he confirmed that he had taken about a gram of cocaine.
While Chris is calling an ambulance, the caller starts attacking Daniel with a knife.
No.
He just tried to drive the knife into me. That's when I was able to get in an emergency call to raise awareness to my other colleagues.
Meanwhile, Chris is desperately searching the house for Daniel.
I called out, but I had absolutely no reply. It was complete silence.
He then turned the knife on me again, and we wrestled again.
No. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
But that time, the knife did actually drive twice into my stab-proof vest.
No! No!
And whilst I felt the pressure of the knife going into my chest, luckily my stab-proof saved me. Now, he was using all of his strength with both hands, and I was using all my strength to try and keep the knife away from me.
No! No!
Immediately after, he tried to drive the knife into my leg, and because it was on the inside of my right thigh, the femoral artery runs along there, and it was kind of around that area, so I knew that if that got severed, it's a very short bleed-out time, and you know that could have been fatal. It's as if time had slowed down. Lots of thoughts go through your head very quickly. You know, I'm probably not going to see my family again. Am I going to die? Or being so badly injured that I wouldn't be able to be a police constable anymore.
Daniel has been struggling for over 2 minutes now, and Chris is still frantically trying to find them.
What annoyed me more is just not knowing where they were, because I could have come to his aid much sooner if I knew where the location was.
I just had to use sheer strength to try and overpower him, which I eventually done. Pinned him to his bed.
Take out a knife, I'm a police officer.
Took hold of a knife blade. I'd rather much lose a finger than my life, so I took hold of the blade and I gripped that with as much strength as I could, and eventually I pried it from his fingers, working along the knife.
Let go of the knife. Come on, mate. We don't need to do this. Right.
Once I got control of that, I took it and I held it behind my back, and that's when my colleague came into the room.
When I was just outside of the door, I still had heard nothing from inside. So I opened the door and I saw Daniel actually keeping the male on his side, on the bed, holding knife behind, giving me the knife. So he just tried to stab me. So, So I took the knife, took it outside of the door, just if the guy got loose, couldn't get hold of it, and went to assist Daniel, asked him how he was.
It was great relief when I saw Chris coming through the door. That really sort of like reassured me that, you know, it was going to get a little bit easier from then on.
Daniel's energy was spent. He said, I'm quite fatigued now. So I managed to, with Daniel's help, turn the male on his front, handcuff him, and we made further calls for further assistance, for further patrols to come to the site.
That's when I arrested him, and we managed to restrain him.
You're under arrest. On suspicion of assault in place. Do not have to say anything. Be made harm in defence. If you do not mention my question, I'll tell you later on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence.
And then we had to put in some aftercare as well, just to make sure he's breathing and he wasn't suffering from positional asphyxia, which Chris done really, really well. The sentimental value of knowing somebody that you used to live on the same street with, that goes out the window, because you've got to look at the risk of what's happening there and then.
Within minutes, backup officers arrive.
Immediately after the incident, I had so much adrenaline running through my body that it just purged and I broke down. And because I thought I was going to die through the incident when it was going into my chest, I just got overcome by emotion, and I just broke down at that point.
It was a hard day, more for Daniel, because he had to go through this, rather than for me, who just happened to be there and was able to assist him a little bit with the obviously horrible situation he was in.
Chief Constable of Kent Police, Alan Pusely, receives more and more reports of attacks on his officers.
When I was briefed that a member of the public had a lethal weapon, a sharp knife of about 5-6 inches long, and he had, for a sustained period, tried to stab one of my officers in a confined space, and that knife was plunged into him 2 or 3 times into the body armour. You know, horrendous. I was relieved initially that the injuries were not more severe. But when you see things like that and you hear things like truly heroic, truly heroic policing by Daniel on this occasion, your blood does run cold, because it could have been much worse. We deal with death. We deal with serious injury. And unfortunately, some of the deaths and the serious injury we deal with as a result of knife crime. From 2010 to 2018, we had a 152% increase in knife crime, the highest in the UK. So that was about 300 offences to about 800 offences in a yearly period, massive. I'm just really disappointed with society that criminals think it's okay to assault a police officer. No, it isn't. It just isn't. Those people who do that should be punished appropriately, and in my view, that should be prison.
The offender was convicted of attempted wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison, with an additional 3 years on licence.
Yeah, I was overwhelmed when I heard the result, but in reality, he will actually end up serving a lot less. So he's only got to do 2/3 of his sentence, which is about 6 years, and he can apply for parole in 2024. For now, he's in a safe place. Yeah.
Daniel made the decision to get back to work almost immediately after the incident.
I knew that if I didn't return to policing on the following set of shifts, I probably wouldn't be policing at all. It's one of those situations, as soon as you fall off the horse, you've got to get back on it. I think, I would have lost the momentum and probably the confidence to carry on policing. So it was important to me to get back into work as soon as I could. I was quite nervous going back into work. It was quite difficult, but, I had good support around me, so that kind of really helped and eased me back in. But there's not a day that I don't go on duty, putting on my vest and not know how much risk we're in sometimes. So that's the true fact of it, really.
I thought he was a little bit withdrawn and possibly a little bit concerned. But I was always happy to go out with him, because I know I can rely on him every time.
He may be more cautious now, but Daniel is glad to be back doing what he loves. And thankfully, not all jobs are life-threatening.
I made you spill your coffee once.
Didn't, but nearly. Yeah. We're looking for actually lost sheep, weren't we? Sheep on the road. And we're just flying around to prevent any accidents with sheep on the road. And I was looking at the map, and there was sudden braking.
Yeah, it was controlled braking.
Of course it was. That nearly brought my breakfast out.
Despite the dangers of the job and the rise of attacks on police, Daniel and Chris are determined to continue protecting and serving the public.
There is always a thought that something could happen, but the job in itself makes the risk worth taking.
When we get in trouble, we can only rely on each other. We don't have an emergency service to call to come and help us when we're in trouble. So it's really important, to have a good team and make those bonds. I'd like to thank him from the bottom of my soul on how much it meant to me, him being there.
I'm actually glad it was him, because someone else possibly wouldn't be able to deal with the situation as well as he did. I'm glad he's okay. I'm really glad he's okay. He's my hero.
No criminal wants to get caught. But how have they found themselves in these precarious situations in the first place?
Not all criminals are just bad people. They're doing it for other reasons. You know, they're at a vulnerable point in their life where there's nothing else for them other than to perhaps go out and commit crime to maintain an existence. You know, that's where they've got to in their lives. They've got to that point whereby they can't find another way out. They might be coerced or groomed into committing crime. So they will do over and above what perhaps a normal member of the public would consider in order to escape custody.
The causes of crime may be varied, but one thing is certain. The police will also go over and above to catch the perpetrators.
Charles got him in custody now.
And 4 legs are better than 2.
Gil's my operational police dog, he's my partner. He's just over 4 years of age. One of our police dogs. He's been bred within the West Midlands Police breed scheme. Not the biggest, but he certainly is pretty quick across the ground.
PC Dan Thomas joined the police at 19. After a few years in response and other units, he knew exactly where he wanted to be.
My granddad was a civilian dog trainer, and as a child I was always brought up with my granddad out training dogs, working dogs. And my mum was a veterinary nurse, so we were also surrounded by pet dogs, and I'd always had an interest in achieving a little bit more from the dog. So dog handling and being a police officer just seemed a great way to marry two things which I really enjoyed. The bond that you get with the pet dog is phenomenal, and if I could explain that, the bond you get with the working dog is just, it's absolutely extreme, it's brilliant. You know, they will go through hell for you, they're fantastic. So currently I'm working 2 police dogs. I have Gil. He's a general purpose police dog, so he's used for a variety of different tasks, such as tracking, searching for property and people, and also, if need be, chasing and detaining people who may be running off. I've also working a Springer Spaniel. That's Mickey. He's 8. He's one of the oldest police dogs in the force now. He searches for explosives, and also any bomb threats that may come in during the day-to-day working in the police. And my boys, you know, we're a working team. They're your partner. They depend on you, you depend on them. They live at home with us, so it's not like we leave work at work. We take work home with us all the time. All of our experiences are shared together. All the incidents we attend are, you know, together. We train together on a day-to-day basis. As a dog handler, you need to be quite self-motivated. Happy to work on your own. The conversation is often quite one way in the van.
Hello.
We get some whining and some barking now and again if the driving's not too good.
So what does a police dog's day entail?
First thing we need to do is get Gil dressed. So like we wear uniform as police officers, this is Gil's uniform. It's his tracking harness, his nice thick flat collar and his chain that he works on. It's a nice strong piece of equipment that we can keep hold of him. Once he's got his uniform on, he knows it's time to work. It's a tremendous department because we are involved in such high-end incidents. Mainly ones where crimes are in progress. So maybe burglaries, robberies, armed robberies, car chases, tracking incidents whereby people have been lost, searching for things that have been discarded. Down. It's so different. Every day it's a new challenge.
Although we tend to think of officers when we think of attacks on police, sadly they aren't the only ones who get hurt by offenders.
Police dogs also end up being attacked by people. You know, I've had police dogs stabbed in the past. You know, people strike animals in order to try and escape custody. During my time with Gil, he has been attacked by people. Good lad. We've had incidents where people have grabbed him, tried to pull his mouth apart, have struck him, hit him over the head a few times. That's unacceptable. That's my partner, and I will protect him as much as he will protect me. So if you're going to hurt my police dog, then we're going to bring you to custody and we're going to deal with you efficiently and put you in front of the courts. But the one thing that will never go away is the fact the dog will always put themselves in front of you and protect you, you know, without question.
Being a dog handler does present some extra challenges that other police officers don't face.
When you are operational with a police dog, you are on your own all the time, particularly when we're off searching, because we think about things such as scent disturbance. So you are somewhat vulnerable, but you've got a four-legged friend with 42 teeth that if it really goes wrong, then you know that they've got your back 100%.
This was put to the test in December 2017, when Dan was on night shift with police dog Gil. At around 2 a.m, a member of the public calls in a burglary in progress at their neighbour's house.
Police emergency?
There's a robbery taking place right next to my house. Two of them are stealing my next door neighbour's motorbike.
What, they're doing it now?
Yeah, they're doing it literally right now.
I got the call on the radio and then I headed over to join the officers.
Myself and another unit arrived immediately straight away. We've detained one person actually on the driveway of this property, trying to steal the property. He's detained, and then from the neighbour who originally called, stating that the other person has run into the back gardens and was effectively fence hopping. And it's best for Dan to get there so he's got a better opportunity to track the offender.
So my role then is to take charge of the incident. We put on containment, so we'll spread officers out over a larger distance, put him onto a tracking harness and tracking line, which is a long extended line which allows him to work freely, and then task him to pick up the scent of that person, and then it'll be down to the police dog to use his skills and abilities, with me following behind on the lead, hoping he takes us in the right direction. The suspect had run through the gardens and he'd gone over a spiked fence into a school grounds, and then he disappeared. So Gil told me at this point he'd gone into the first garden, he'd then climbed onto a shed, over the spiked fence, into the school grounds. So that wasn't viable for me and Gil. So we worked our way, left for a short while, gained access into the school over this spiked fence, and then I tasked Gil to pick the track up again, which he did, and he tracked through the school, straight the way through to the other side, and this is when we come to the second fence.
The spiked fence is 8 feet high, with a tractor tyre propped up against it, which the suspect used to jump over.
So I picked Gil up, put him down on the other side of the fence, tied him up, and straight away, Gil's, Dad, we need to go. This guy's gone down this way. He's really keen. He wants to go. So then I've climbed up onto the top of this spiked fence, and as I've lowered myself down, I've slipped. And at that point, then the fence caught my jacket, and the spiked fence went straight into my left arm, tore the skin open, and then I managed quickly just to pull my arm off the spiked fence, and then get back to my feet.
Dan updates his colleagues on what's happened and tells them his location.
Dan stated he's got himself off the fence, he needs an ambulance, he's losing a lot of blood. So just hearing that, we're frantically trying to get to him now.
I think at that point, your adrenaline's up so much. We're probably 15 minutes into the incident now, so we've been running across the school grounds, tracking with the dog, heart rate's up, and the adrenaline's pumping to say, come on, we need to get on. The dog's saying, Dad, you're holding us up now, we need to get a move on. Track through the gardens all the time, updating the officers of where we're going. Eventually then, the dogs found the person hiding in the bush.
Show yourself! The police officer with the dog, show yourself now!
I've called the officers in.
We've actually kicked down the fence to the garden to gain entry, where we've located Dan. His dog had detained the offender, so we had the offender in custody as well. And then our main concerns was looking after Dan.
At this point, I could feel all my hands were getting wet, and it was the blood that was running from my arm. Still got hold of Gil, but I can feel that I'm starting to go.
And then he's just collapsed on the floor, and underneath him now there was a puddle of blood. I knew he was losing a lot of blood at the time.
One of the officers came running in to help me, at which point Gil has taken off from this side, from the left-hand side to the right, to try and defend me as he sees this person running towards me, because the police dogs don't understand. So he's gone to protect me, when really what I needed was them to try and give me some help. One of the local officers who'd got some experience with police dogs tentatively came along, took Gil from me, and put him into the back of a police car. Shut the door, he was safe, and then that's when the local officers then just really came into their own.
I managed to get my fleece and tie it around his arm as a tourniquet just to stop the bleeding. He was going in a state of shock. He was fitting. and he went grey in the face and pale. His blood was draining from his face. It looked quite bad.
Fellow dog handler PC Neil Topping is called in to take control of Gil while paramedics attend to Dan.
I arrived at the scene. There was lots of police officers, 2 ambulances, of which I was aware Dan was in one, and all I could see was the police vehicle with a tracking line coming out of it. The door had been closed onto the tracking line. I thought the dog was soaking wet, but when I looked down at my hands were covered in blood. And it took a while to realise that was actually, I thought it was an injury to the dog, but it wasn't. It was Dan's blood.
Dan is then rushed to hospital in the ambulance.
They stitched me all back together. After they were happy that everything was cleaned up, stitched up, I was able to go home later on that evening. I know I was really lucky. It was a great escape that day.
He just had a very nice tattoo completed in that area, so that was a bit of a point of us taking the mickey out of him for quite some time, to be honest. But it doesn't look too bad now, so that's good.
Had around, I think, about a month and a half off work while I waited for it to heal. But Gil is still there. Dad, when are we going back to work? And Gil absolutely loves coming to work. All police dogs love working. It's what they're bred for.
Okay. And he was soon back to work doing what he done best.
Once I've got over all the mickey taking in the police station, back out on the streets, it's as normal.
Even though Dan thinks twice now before jumping fences, it hasn't hampered him and Gil in the slightest.
With Gil at my side, I'm absolutely confident that anything that we come across, together as a team, we should be able to deal with that. Isn't it?
If anything, it's made him more determined and given him even more confidence in his police dog, that the dog's right, and he knows that when that dog's telling him there's someone there, the dog's absolutely bang on.
He goes to the nth degree on each incident. When he's getting his dog out to track at an incident, we've always got a very strong belief that we're going to catch the person at the end.
Find it! It's massively rewarding to train an animal to perform a task and then take that out into the real world.
They are wonderful animals. It's an absolute privilege to be able to work alongside an animal like this. And it's an absolute privilege to be a police dog handler.
He's probably one of the best on West Midlands Police dog unit, and a lot of people look up to him for that. He probably doesn't realise that.
Go on, man.
Dan is an absolute hero. Well done, Dan.